Hi, I'm Diana, and for this presentation, I will be looking into the what ifs of Mayan civilization. Alright, so to kind of start off, we're going to get some more background information on Mayan civilization. The Mayans were a civilization located in what is often referred to as Mesoamerica, but it's not really referred to as that anymore, and it is now known and recognized more as Mexico and Central America. Some places where Mayan civilization resided were the Yucatan Peninsula, Guatemala, Belize, parts of some Mexican states, and parts of Honduras and El Salvador. Now, I chose to focus on Mayan civilization because I just found it to be very interesting. As I learned more about them, the more their technology spoke to me, and it also just kind of brought me to the realization that they really just did display a lot of advanced cultural traits. Like, for example, Mayan settlements that have been excavated have found incredible plazas, palaces, temples, and pyramids that are really still standing today. But architecture was not the only thing that they were good at. They were also exceptional at things like agriculture. For example, they particularly practiced a primitive type of slash and burn agriculture, while also displaying more advanced farming technologies like irrigation and terracing. But the trait that stood out to me the most was their love and admiration for mathematics and astronomy. Their love and admiration led to the development of the fabled Mayan calendar, which is pictured over here. And this calendar is the one that predicted that the world would end in 2012. The calendar round, which is based on 365 days, and the long count calendar, which was designed to last over 5,000 years. This talk of time really brings me to my next point, which is the discovery of zero. The origin of zero itself is usually credited to India, who most likely adopted it from the Babylonians, but it has actually been noted that the Mayans developed their own concept of zero at least 100 years earlier than they did in India. This is something that is incredibly important to note because despite their geographical isolation and newness, the Mayans were still able to completely and independently discover zero. In its early days, zero was used as nothing but a placeholder, but the Mayans showed that it could be more than that when they used it in their calendar in the 3rd century AD. It was running on a base 20 system, which is shown at the bottom right image. It started at 0, which is really the shell shape that you see up here, and ended at 19. And the image over here to the right is how people in India represented 0 with the dot. But in the end, 0 still signified nothingness, but it also just really took a really big step forward when it became part of their numerical system. So why didn't the Mayans spread this discovery and its importance so early on? Well, really, to put it simply, they couldn't. Their geographical location actually set them back in more than just one way. For one, the dense, thick jungle over here pictured on the right kept them from ever being a unified empire because it was just an obstacle that was simply too big to overcome. This thick jungle also made it hard to really develop transportation technology, meaning that there was a very limited amount of roads over here pictured to the left and canals that were available to connect them to the world outside of their civilization. Trade and communication with other civilizations was simply just an important luxury that would have allowed the discovery of zero to spread sooner, but it was one that Mayan geography could simply not afford. Like I mentioned earlier, the Mayans had a fascination with time, astronomy, and mathematics, so it's no secret that their use of zero greatly impacted their technological developments and the way that they viewed the world around them. If Mayan civilization had been as geographically accessible as India, over here to the picture to the right, you can really see how accessible India is, then the idea of nothing being zero actually being of importance would have spread around the world much, much sooner. I say this because the idea of zero was able to spread outside of India due to their accessibility and their interaction with other civilizations. Arab merchants that interacted with India were able to spread its discovery of zero to the more Western world. Through this discovery into the West, zero was deemed more than just a placeholder. It now held value and has played a huge role in creating the world that we know today. This spread really also led to the creation of the zero that we easily recognize today, which is right here pictured in the middle, and we can really thank the Chinese for this image. That being said, the idea of zero reaching the developing world earlier would mean that we could have been more technologically advanced than we are today in another reality. The discovery of zero was huge because it helped develop and advance mathematics. For example, it led to the Mayans including zero in their calendar. Now, time is something that we really value and something that they really valued, and the idea of 0 days and 0 years is a belief that exists non-materially in their culture. Secondly, they also understood the value of zero in positional notation, which is also really just referred to as placeholding. For example, they saw that in the number 102, the number 1 held the value of the 100, 0 held the value of the tens, and 2 held the value of the ones. This greatly impacted the way that they viewed mathematics and allowed them to advance their thinking in ways that were previously unimaginable. Most importantly, this change in mathematics has shaped the world that we live in today. It has really allowed the creation and development of finance, which has played a really big role in conceptualizing business and trade, which are both things that really make the material world that we know today go around. And lastly, the discovery of zero led to the eventual development of the binary code, which is largely responsible for the development of computers and other very advanced technologies that we have readily available to us today too. Overall, the fact that the Mayans were able to discover and put zero to use independently before other civilizations is very impressive within itself. And it's just really fun to imagine how they would have changed history if geography was on their side. Now, these are just some sources that I use. Thanks for listening.